Hello and welcome to the Coal Authority podcast. The Coal Authority exists to make a better future for people and the environment in mining areas. We carry out vital work to keep people, drinking water and the environment safe from the legacy impacts of our mining heritage. These podcasts are intended to offer some insight into the work that we do and why we do it, and we hope that you will find them interesting, and we would welcome any suggestions for content for future podcasts as these series grow. Without further ado, let's get into the next episode. Thank you.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to our next episode of our Confidence in the Coalfields podcast series, a podcast where we bring industry professionals together to discuss our collaborative working and the value we bring to those involved in the buying or selling of property or land for development across the Scottish coalfields. In this podcast today, we'll be focusing on the Scottish property market. And to join me on this journey, I'm delighted to welcome a bit of a soap celebrity, someone who once wrote a storyline for Emmerdale and was also a DJ and radio presenter at the tender age of 14. I can't wait to hear all about that. May I welcome Paul Hilton, CEO of ESPC.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Martin. It's amazing what gets classified as a celebrity these days, isn't it? Yeah, I did write a script once upon a time, well, a storyline once upon a time ago for Emmerdale, and yeah, it certainly was is a DJ too big a word? Certainly used to play music on the radio a long time ago when I at tender age of 14. Yeah.
Wow, 14. What radio station was it?
Well, this is, yeah, I'm revealing more of my past than maybe I should here, because I don't even think to this day my parents know, but my brother and I had a small little, shall we say, a pirate radio station back in the day. So, you know, we built our own little transmitter and we used to just operate in our own little community. Used to have a phone in and, you know, one of us would run to the telephone box to take the calls and stuff, and then we would go back and play the music that they wanted us to play. So, yeah, it was great. It's great.
Wow.
Great fun little experience. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that juicy detail with us there, Paul. I'm also equally delighted to have joined Martin Beale, who's one of our commercial team managers here today, someone who brings an incredible amount of value to the Coal Authority with a wide range of things that he delivers, one of which is looking at trends for our coal mining reports and customer insights. And Martin has also featured on East Midlands News. So Martin, welcome and tell us more.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for the introduction, Lisa. Yes, so I've been on the local news in our area a couple of times and was once interviewed live on East Midlands Today, which is the BBC. So where I worked prior to the Coal Authority was a contact centre, and our contact centre was one of the contact centres that used to take pledge calls for Red Nose Day. So every 2 years we would do certain activities that would then kind of pick up the interest of in the local Nottingham area. And in the final year that I did it, we were actually broadcast live on the news. Bit of a frightening experience because they don't actually tell you what they're going to ask you, and you are pretty much put on the spot. So I would like to say it was my 15 minutes of fame, but it was probably more about 15 seconds.
Well, every second counts.
Indeed.
Fantastic. So we're going to start with you today, Paul, and we would like to find out a little bit more about you and your career history. So you've been in the property sector for 40 years, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Being in pretty much, I'd say, boy and man and boy, was involved in the property sector. Started, you know, really left school, was going to college at night, and during the day I was working in the estate agency. And actually, strangely enough, did put my first property on the market at the tender age of 17.
Really?
I'd only go around to explain to the owners that my boss, who couldn't make it that day, and I simply walked in and they were like, right, well, we really just want to get this property on the market. They thought I was the guy. I was the valuer. I really just didn't say anything. The power of silence sometimes works, and they just handed me the keys and said, "Look, if you." So I remember running back to my boss the next day and saying, "Look, I've just listed a house. I don't really know how, but I must be a natural." And yeah, it's still on the market, I believe.
Is it?
It's sold by now. No, I'm sure it's sold by now.
you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So, so ESPC stands for Edinburgh Solicitor Property Centre. And how long have you been supporting customers for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we started in 1971, and the idea at those time was to bring together solicitor estate agents, so solicitors that sell property, which is the Scottish way, the way it's done in Scotland. We're all working in their own little silos, and they got together. I mean, real great vision, and said, well, look, why don't we all work together more closely, and why don't we create a way that almost like a portal before a portal, let's have all the properties displayed in one central place, which was the showroom. So they created a showroom which had over time, 4,000 properties in it. Let's create a paper with all the properties in it. And again, this is pre-internet. There was a world pre-internet we often forget. So the individuals had real vision, and that started in 1971. And we had big plans for our 50th birthday, but then COVID hit, and so it wasn't quite the right time. But yeah, as I say, it's I love to use the word institution, but we're certainly a trusted brand and a known brand. We generally refer to ourselves these days as ESPC because our area we cover is greater than Edinburgh. So it's Edinburgh, Lothian's 5 borders, the southwest and into the west. So we say East and Central Scotland is the short, pithy way that we describe the areas that we operate in. And yeah, we're still the go-to place if you're looking for a property. The overwhelming majority of people will start a search on espc.com before they go to any other national portal. We are the first portal of choice, which is, again, probably wouldn't happen in England, but certainly in Scotland. That's our position in the marketplace. And, we're very aware that, we continue to ensure that we're a trusted and known brand. And we see ourselves as the honest broker. I mean, whilst we list these properties on behalf of the Edinburgh solicitors or the solicitor estate agents. They're ultimately the estate agent. We are merely the property portal, the shop window. And we're there to give good, honest, neutral advice to anyone who wants advice on any aspect of buying and selling a property, really.
That's fantastic. And I follow you guys quite closely on social media, and that's what kind of made me reach out. I'm obviously a massive fan of your podcast series too, and I believe you've recently celebrated your 50th episode. So congratulations on that.
Yeah. I mean, it was something new, and we didn't just want to do a podcast for the sake of the podcast. So we did think hard about, well, what's our market, what is it we're trying to do there, and I think it was again, the same ethos to provide good, honest advice to the public and use our resources, our assets, which is our solicitor estate agents, to deliver messages. So we get, I mean, only yesterday we just put out our latest show, which is a first-time buyer special. Lots of great advice from one of our seasoned solicitor estate agents. Other weeks it will be about market commentary. We have done one on Feng Shui. That was an interesting one.
Wow.
And the things you should do to your home. No plastic flowers. That's one of the key things.
Oh yeah, I did see that actually. That was really cool. And I know you've got a magazine as well. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So I think going back to the origins of ESPC, we had a showroom and we had a paper, and then obviously along came the internet. We still retain those 3 channels. We have a showroom in George Street in Edinburgh, where people can come in for advice and talk to us about property. We have a monthly magazine, distribution over 20,000, which has properties in it, and also has articles and advice in that. We door drop some of those magazines, and we also have them free to be available on over 250 outlets in and around the city. And of course, we have the website espc.com, which just gets a phenomenal amount of traffic. In fact, I was just looking just the other day, there are most viewed top 10 most viewed properties, which is always a good little feature that we do every month. Collectively, those top 10 properties had over 90,000 views in the month of April. So just gives you an insight into the sort of volume of traffic that we get to that site. As I say, we remain the go-to portal for serious house hunters and local people in the area.
So the theme of today, we're going to be discussing the Scottish property market. So out of all the regions, Scotland has really held its own. It's been a really interesting and buoyant market over the past year, with Edinburgh being a key hotspot, attracting residents from all over the world. Edinburgh in particular is consistently one of the most popular places to buy a property. what do you think are the key themes that you've noticed over the last year or so, Paul?
Sure. I mean, I think I completely agree with what you said, Elisa. I think the market's always been very robust, even in the dark days of 2009 when we saw the banking crash and subsequent recession. You know, the property values really, to a large degree, did hold. You know, so we've always had a very stable and sort of growing market. I think one of the key reasons is that, you know, there is still remains to this day, there is a supply and demand imbalance, you know, partially down to the fact that if you've only got to visit Edinburgh to see for yourself, you know, there's lots of Georgian property, lots of Victorian property. They're not going to build any more of that type of property. And clearly in the areas that they're in, there is very little area where we can see the opportunity for further build. So, you know, we have lots of swathes of the city, which is, you know, World Heritage sites, protected, etc., etc. And we have seen some build, you know, and I think that's great because we see there's an expanding population and people need to ensure that they have a home. But yeah, I think this year, I mean, it's interesting because certainly in the last couple of years we've had COVID, and there was once people could start buying and viewing properties, there was it's almost a mania in the marketplace. You know, that the years of 2021 and 22 that were extremely buoyant for the market, and that would be across the UK. Certainly very pronounced in the areas that we operated in. What we did see was that there was a number of buyers that moved out to the suburbs or to other areas such as Borders and Fife. So either they want to be near a beach or they wanted to be in the countryside. So I think people just took stock of things, you know, post-COVID. And also, I think because we then moved to hybrid working and the interactivity through things like Teams and Zoom meant that people were maybe only in the office 2 or 3 days a week. It meant that commute that you didn't really want to do 5 days a week, you could almost do 2 days a week. So again, that had some influence on the marketplace. I think this year things have calmed. I think there's a number of reasons for that. Obviously, interest rate rises, inflation have all had a bearing on the market. And certainly, I think the thing which had plagued the market for the last couple of years was a lack of supply. So a lack of properties coming to the market meant that when they did, they were snapped up, and they were snapped up for a premium. And we've seen all that cool. And so we now probably find ourselves more in what I describe as a balanced market between enough buyers and enough sellers. So we have a nice market equilibrium now. Generally, in my experience, that doesn't last long. It normally tips one way or another, either in favor of sellers, so in favor of buyers. But at the moment, we seem to have things pretty much in balance. And yeah, again, we can talk more about the statistics on that if you want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from sort of things that I've read online as well, customers are wanting to move into a property that's kind of ready-made and they don't need to make any alterations to it now. Is that kind of what you're seeing as well?
I think I think the fixer uppers are still popular. They're probably not as popular as they were because the cost of doing these things has gone up significantly. You know, cost of bricks, tradespeople, etc., etc. It's all gone up as inflation has pushed on into double figures. So that's had some bearing. And I think the market's trying to find its level for those properties. Whereas, you know, I think back in the day, of course, that's what everybody wanted with the fixer up. It's still popular, but probably not as quite as popular as they were.
And the average buyers paying the home report valuation as well. We've seen quite a few sort of changes as well. And what kind of key things have you noticed in the last year for the home report?
That's a really good question. And I think going back to what we were just talking about, as supply increases and on ESPC.com, our available properties is up about 35% at the moment. So there's a third more properties this year than there was the same time last year. And as a consequence, the only thing I ever learned when I went and did economics is that it's supply and demand. You know, if you increase the supply and the demand stays the same, that does have a dampening of prices. So whereas last year we were seeing premiums being paid over and above the home reports of maybe 7, 8, 9, and 10% on average. And this year it's looking at around 101.6%, so 1.6% over the home report. Now, that's very good news for first-time buyers because it means that the first-time buyer only has to find a little more to secure the property. And this is the average. So there will be some properties that don't actually achieve the home report figure, or there's fixed prices where people offer lower than that. But overall, as I say, that The market has cooled slightly, and I think that's been good. We've seen more first-time buyers come to market this year and buy than we've seen in previous years, and that's because there's more choice, and it's slightly easier to get on the ladder and secure a property, though we recognise with interest rates where they are, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
There's still an affordability stretch there, and that's something which, frankly, needs to be solved. And I think the Scottish government, I'm not sure how much you know, but they're talking about a national housing emergency and crisis, and we need to solve these things. So we have been talking quite a bit to Scottish government about the things that can be done, practical steps to try and make it easier for first-time buyers to get on the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are you seeing in terms of kind of average selling times as well, Paul?
Yeah, we're very blessed in the area that we operate. So if we look at Edinburgh, Lothian, Fife and Borders, which is our core areas we would describe, and the time it takes between a property going on the market and an offer being accepted is 33 days, which is just over a month. That's 6 days slower than it was last year, but it's still phenomenal. I mean, certainly if you compare that with parts of England where you're looking at 3 to 4 months, we have a very brisk, shall we say, a very brisk property market in the areas where we operate in.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously that is down to the upfront information that I know, before a property is marketed, they need to have, the home valuation in place, the home report. Yeah, so that obviously does make a vast difference, doesn't it? And the EPC certificate, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I think it's unique in terms of we have that in Scotland, don't have that in England, Wales or Northern Ireland at the moment. So we provide a lot more information up front, which I think allows a first-time buyer to make an informed decision. It also, because ultimately we have a mortgage valuation in there, I think, again, it helps with the mortgage process as well and getting these things across the line and getting these mortgages approved. Yeah, and I think there is new changes coming. I think we're seeing government, Westminster, National Trading Standards now asking for more information up front during the buying process to provide that information to buyers. We welcome that. We think it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
I'd say 90% plus of that information is already in the home report, but there are new things that's being asked, including information on the mining side, if the property sits in a coal field. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that at some point. And again, I think the more information you can give up front to a buyer, the better informed they are when they make the decision, and the more likelihood I think that the property sale is going to stick. We have a relatively low fall-through rate in Scotland with ESPC solicitor estate agents. It's around 7%. So the majority of properties, once an offer's been accepted, do proceed. And I think that's partly down to the nuances of the market, partly down to the provision of information provided up front, like the home report, and also down to the excellence of the solicitor estate agent nurturing that sale through. In the rest of the independent market, independent estate agents, probably more like 25%. So, 1 in 4 sales are falling through, and that's not good news for a buyer or for a seller. So to say, I think there is really good argument for more information and very good argument for using the ESPC solicitor estate agent.
Absolutely.
Bit of a plug.
Yeah. we like a plug.
Well, there's no fee, so I've got to plug.
Yeah. No, and that's very reflective, isn't it, Martin, in the very positive story that you've been able to tell over the last year for Scotland as well.
Yeah, it certainly is, Lisa. Well, not obviously. I track a lot of figures, and I'm looking at the trends and percentage increases, decreases, and as Paul said, last year there was a bit of a dip in the housing market throughout. Again, we've mentioned interest rates and the like. So we saw about a 20%, just over 20% decrease in our overall residential reports. However, the Scottish market kind of almost bucked the trend. So while we saw a 20% overall, because we supply for England and Wales as well as Scotland, we only saw a 5% decrease in the Scottish market, which was, again, it's quite reflective on what Paul's been saying about how the Scottish market has been performing. And it does kind of then pull through that this year we do seem to be having a bit of a a turnaround, although we're only 1 month into the new financial year. Again, we've seen a 14.5% increase in residential reports overall. And again, Scotland kind of goes against that trend and is 26.5% up on the residential reporting. So yeah, it does show that the Scottish market is really, really strong. It'd be interesting to then probably find out more about where the new build kind of communities lie. Because again, when we're looking at our reporting and what we can do for, you know, not just home buyers, but also people that are looking to build in areas of more probably rural areas, if they do fall on the coal field, again, we can help and support with that journey as well.
Am I right in thinking, I think I read somewhere, I was doing a bit of cramming late last week, is it 11% of all land sits on coalfield, and is that right? Did I get
That's
that
right.
right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 11% of the UK sits on the coalfield. If we look at Scotland as a whole, that's actually 51%. So there's around about 23,000 recorded mine entries in Scotland alone. If you want to include England and Wales figures, you're looking at around about 176,000. Yeah, you've done your homework, Paul.
I did my cramming. I thought there might be a test for this year.
No,
That's phenomenal, isn't it? Really?
yeah. So I'm not sure kind of what else you know about the Coal Authority, but we're a non-departmental public body and partner organisation for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. We're actually celebrating our 30th birthday in a few months' time. And we've been managing the legacy of coal mining on behalf of the government, like I say, for the past 3 decades. Our mission is to make a better future for people in the environment in coal mining areas. You know, we're all about confidence, trust, you know, some of the values that you were kind of mentioning earlier. We work very closely with our customers to ensure they've got, you know, key lines of communication with key, very experienced stakeholders here at the Coal Authority. You know, we work very closely with the lender community as well, estate agents, you know, the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, to really ensure that, you know, everybody involved in that process of buying and selling a property has that key line of communication with the Coal Authority. We also work with like departments across the UK government to deliver on UK government priorities, which includes our transition to net zero, levelling up national resilience, and improving environmental and a sustainable economy. So, you know, if we look at the kind of Scottish central belt, it's from the west coast of Ayr to the east coast of Fife. And obviously, I know you guys are based in Edinburgh, which is, like we said earlier, a key hotspot for those looking to buy a property. And, you know, we've got a lot of mutual customers, Paul, with those that we deal with. We also deal with the paralegal and the legal community. We work very closely with the Scottish Paralegal Association, who are the only association recognised by the Law Society of Scotland, and they're a body representing the interests and development of accredited paralegals in Scotland. And last month, Martin Beale and I, we attended the Scottish Paralegal Association and we delivered a mining masterclass. And this was quite an interactive, wasn't it, Martin, session that we delivered?
It certainly was. I mean, we do like a stat here at the Coal Authority, and rather than do a presentation where you're just kind of going through the normal statistics, we did do a presentation kind of a bit more interactive, asking the audience some questions. And I have to admit, by the second question, we were getting some fist pumping of people getting it right. So they certainly bought into our presentation, which was thoroughly well received by all attendees.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you think about just how important coal was and how communities, you know, were built around coal. And I was just checking last night, and I don't think there is any coal mine of any scale that's still open as far as I could see. And you think, well, that's the shift and the transition, and I know now we, you know, as we drive towards net zero, and already we can see energy efficiencies becoming uppermost in a lot of buyers' minds, and I think partially down to the cost of energy and heating. But we are moving into a different world, and certainly I know in our talks with government, we started talking about uh, energy performance certificates and what a minimum rating is going to be to either rent the property out or sell it. And I know we were having a chat, weren't we, Lisa, just around sort of, ground source heat and other things. And I think we are in a state of flux, and we are moving into a very different world, really.
We absolutely are. And, I think it's the wide breadth of things that we actually do here at the Coal Authority. Who knew you could use the legacy of coal mining as an asset to heat homes and businesses? And we're also committed to repurposing 95% of iron ochre and iron solids generated from mine water treatment schemes. And we're also a 24/7 emergency response organisation. We've got staff all over Great Britain ready to respond and take action to keep people safe and provide peace of mind. And this is just to name a few things, of what we do here at the Coal Authority.
One other thing that's probably worth noting is to actually keep the legacy of coal mining alive. I think people have dare I say, of our generation is quite aware that coal mining happened in this country.
Yes.
Across all three nations that we serve, and it was very much a thriving industry. But as we get more and more probably new first-time buyers that probably aren't aware of the coal industry, and then when you do start talking to them about needing a coal report and what used to happen, it really is about kind of keeping that information at the forefront of a conveyancing transaction if it is on Coalfield.
And if people did want to have a look at our interactive viewer as well, that's available. And I know you've had a look at that, Paul.
Yeah, it's good.
Our interactive viewer, I can't even say it. Our interactive viewer receives 5.6 million views per year. So lots of our customers and people that have an interest in coal mining do use it. I'm going to come to you now, Paul, to look at, we're going to talk about mortgage rates a little bit. And the base rate's currently at 5.25%, and that was frozen by the Bank of England on the 9th of May, which I think, to be fair, it was quite widely expected that was going to happen. It was the sixth time in a row that the rate had been frozen. So what are you kind of expecting for the coming few months through the summer, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if we went back to the start of the year, again, you mentioned sort of social media and stuff on LinkedIn. I was saying that we would get our first cut in early summer. So have to say, I hope for the 9th of May is the first cut. 0.25 didn't happen. Key reasons, I think we're still seeing inflation causing concern, particularly wage inflation. I think also there's just a general feeling that, we just a wait and see approach from the Bank of England, because I think what they don't want to do is put rates down and having to put them up again. So we need to feel pretty more confident. So next review by the Monetary Policy Committee is the 20th of June. I think we may see a rate there. If you look at the sort of almost the way the banks and building societies are pricing things at the moment, it's a state of flux, but generally I think there is a small trend downwards, which is sometimes a signal that they expect to see that cut. At the start of the year, I mean, I think it was the Daily Mail, which it seems to have a bit of a downer on the property market for a good while, saying they'd expect to see 6 cuts this year. Well, we're not going to see 6 cuts now because we only have 5 more meetings of the Monetary Policy Committee. But I would expect to see some interest rate cuts. But as I think it's said, is that, in some ways the base rate at 5.25 has decoupled from what the mortgage rates are at the moment anyway. And it really is about doing your own research, talking to an independent mortgage advisor just to get, a real handle on what the market's doing. But yeah, and I think the interesting thing is this year, 1.6 million people come off fixed rates. So, there is going to be a shock as you move from, I don't know, 0.5, 1, 2% to where they are now. And I think that will have a bearing on the economy. And I'm sure that's in the Bank of England's thinking about how do we, we make that smoother, and how do we ensure that doesn't impact too much on the market. We don't want to put the the country into recession here. So it's a real balancing act, and I think the Bank of England just is going to take a steady as we go sort of approach. But yeah, I expect to see reductions as the year rolls out.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast today. So thank you so much, Paul, and Martin as well, for joining our podcast today, and our audience for listening. Thank you.
So we hope you found that podcast interesting and insightful, as we're showing it on our social media channels. If you have any questions or further comments or any suggestions for future podcasts, we'd be really pleased to hear from you. So don't be afraid to get in touch. And we look forward to spending some time with you next time. Thank you.